Hi, I'm Jody.
I'm Reggie.
And if you've gotten to this part of the book, congratulations, first and foremost. And we thought it might be fun to kind of give you an example of this exercise that we do. We call it three things plus one. I don't know if there's a fancier name out there that we could use for it, but
Three things and one.
three things, but it's plus. So, you're joining us here. We're actually in our bedroom, and this is where we would at the end of the day, end of the night, sit down together and do this exercise. We found this exercise to be, I found it personally helpful when there's a lot going on in our lives and in our days, depending on what's happening in work and with our children, just all the stuff that we are doing, that it would, at the end of the day, as we are kind of shutting down and ready for this day to kind of come to a close, to really help us reconnect and to help us find that space where we can share our appreciation for each other, which may have gone unnoticed during the day. And we can also share that one thing that we would kind of say we'd prefer that our partner did it differently. So technically, well, I mean, there's really no technical. It's really about like, how is this going to work for you and your partner? Because doing the exercise is always better than it being perfect or looking a specific way, right?
Correct. And I would just say, for me, it's one of those, it's nice sometimes at the end of days that are particularly challenging to actually recognize or understand that, oh, there were three things you liked about me today. Oh,
To
I would have
receive
been
it.
shocked if you had told me or asked me that. I would have been very surprised because it didn't feel like there were any things I did today that you found particularly wonderful. We'll
Right?
go
Because
that
it's
way.
so easy to point out all the things that either we wish our partner was doing differently, or all the ways that we feel that we ourselves are falling short in our partner's eyes, or things that we ourselves were like, oh, I didn't mean to do that thing. And it got away from me. So hearing from your partner, the little things that they did enjoy, or the little things that were meaningful to them, can often be surprising too. And it's not maybe sometimes what you expect.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we tend to hold on to negative. So, I might do 10 wonderful, let's just take me for example. Most days I do 20 wonderful things
In an hour,
in 30 minutes, probably
probably.
on a bad day, 30 minutes. But a lot of wonderful things. But of course, I usually have, the one or two hiccups a day. And that's what tends to get held on to. So what I found was particularly nice about this exercise was the fact that if you were holding on to that negative thing, it forces you almost to go, okay, but what were the really good things? And then you go, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm kind of being a little uptight about holding on to this one negative thing because they did do like 2,000 wonderful things,
2000 and
2,000 wonderful things that day. So I've always found it a good one to kind of reset, and it's always good, to reset right before bed or right before, just being together for that final time before you go into your night's sleep. So you're not holding on to those things as you go into slumber. So
so let's begin. All right.
we're
So
gonna role play.
we're going to role play. We're going to show you how we would do this. We're going to pretend that it is the end of a long day.
Jody's gonna pretend that I did something not quite wonderful that day, which is,
No, that's
that's a
true.
pretty big stretch for you to pretend. You really gotta.
I think I'll be okay. I think I'll be able to figure it out.
Okay. Good
And
luck.
again, you can do this looking at each other, like we kind of sort of are. You can
Or
do it, oftentimes we do it like once the lights are out and we're finally like the house is quiet, and that seems to be the time where we found more of our rhythm of finally doing it, rather than because we've been reading or doing something in bed and then we're like, okay, it's time for bed, and then we would have this time together. So okay, so for tonight, for today, three things I love about you. One thing I love about you today is you put away all the boxes up in the garage that needed to be put away, and you did so. I appreciate that. Um, I love that you took Rosie to horseback riding today, and the two of you had a great time and went off and did that.
mm-hmm.
And the third thing I love about you today was that since the dog had been accidentally left outside, you actually came home en route to your second outing, you actually turned around and came back and let the dog in who was barking on the back porch. So I did not have to get up out of my bath and go downstairs and do that. So I truly appreciate that. And then one thing you could do differently
Take your time.
is to remember to check that the dog's in the house before you leave the house, or make sure your child checks, or have whoever it is, make sure that the dog is in the house before you leave the house. That's one thing you could do differently. All right. And here's the thing. The goal is to sit and just receive the information.
And sometimes it can be really difficult.
Now,
Really, really
it's
difficult.
up to you.
3 things I love about you today is, one, you got up and helped get Rosie ready to go so that when it was time to leave for riding, she was locked and loaded and good to go. 2, that you went for a run today so you could have a nice stress reliever so you're ready to handle anything and everything I could bring forth on this wonderful day. And 3, that you helped me put the boxes away at one point today. That was very thoughtful of you. One thing I wish you would have done differently was, it's always challenging. Oh, was to, when I go, we have these 2 boxes and I give you the names for the 2 boxes and you're like, okay, but I don't know which one of those is, I'm not sure. And I put one of them away and I go, yeah, I put the one for this. You go, why'd you put that one away? I need that one. I don't need the other one. That you're processing of getting to that point when you knew right away you needed that one box that I put away, that you didn't just go, keep that box down, hold on to that other one. I'm not sure about that one. That would have been very nice and saved me 20 seconds worth of work and effort.
So for my processing to be a little more verbal or quicker,
More
Okay.
verbal on your,
vocalizing
the fact
what's
that
happening.
you knew you wanted to keep that one, but you were processing how you wanted to configure things.
The other
Meanwhile,
one.
I'm getting shit done, pardon my French, and that could have avoided me possibly falling off the ladder and cracking my head open.
Which did not occur, so
But it could
I
have.
am so glad it did
It
not
could
occur,
have.
that my lengthy processing did not
Now
cause
see,
you to crack your head open.
Jody just demonstrated how you're not really supposed to say anything coming back. She broke the rule on that one.
It's true, I did.
Cut.
All right.
All right. So that's how it goes.
Give each
3
other a
plus
big
1,
hug.
and there we
Give
go.
each other a hug. Supposed to hug and just embrace and let it be just that, and allow yourself to.
Yeah, and fellas, sometimes that can be tricky because they try and get a little, try and get a little handsy there, and next thing you know, one thing leads to another. So if you need to get sleep, you might not want to do your 3 plus 1 that night.
But as you can see, that it does open the door to, and the intention is while you're doing it to not suddenly be like, that's not what I did. Yeah, my processing is my processing. It takes me as long as it takes. Like, that's really not the goal.
Because usually that's already happened.
The goal is to receive the information from your partner, especially the 3 things plus the 1, to receive it and be open to it and just kind of be like, okay. And it might be something that you then do want to talk more about. And you could be like, hey, can we talk more about that? Or can we address that? Or it might just be a space where you're like, okay, we're going to shelve that and get back to it at some point. Or you might also be in a space where you're like, yeah, I really could have handled that better. I could have said to him, because I did think about that box immediately, that, oh no, I want to keep that box. Meanwhile, I'm thinking about, but what is in that other box? Do I need that other box? But I didn't say that because that's not how I was processing in the moment. So he's up there putting the box that I need away. And I'm like, oh crap. Now I need to tell him to get that other box back down.
So what Jody just demonstrated is why you just want to do your 3 plus 1, hug, and go to sleep. You don't really want to have any discussion because next thing you know, it gets into, and you're like, it's 1 o'clock. I want to be in bed, but
it can be something for another day, right?
It can be
something.
yes.
And it's,
bring it
I
up
was trying to say that for me, it's that my own internal self of awareness of like, oh yeah, that was something I could have done differently. And I completely agree with how I could have done that differently this day. So it's kind of just my own little chalk note to self without feeling like you are being super like, what the hell's wrong with you? What are you thinking about?
Exactly.
It softens it,
Which
and
I
it
never
makes
am.
me more open and more receptive.
Exactly.
And then the next day, what it does, if you commit to doing this together for 2 weeks, 21 days, 21 days is always a good time, right? Because isn't that how long it takes for us to
For it to
rewire
become-
and to become a habit?
Yep.
That you find yourself starting to look for those things during the day, and you actively are seeking out, like
good
gratitude
stuff.
listing, you're seeking out. Well, it's true. Like I said, the one thing is usually not hard to find. It's the 3 things that can be a little tricky sometimes. And so when you're doing this and you're committed to doing it together, then you do know that you're kind of like, oh, that's going to be one of the ones I save for tonight. Because it does feel kind of awkward when you sit there with your partner and you're like, I have no idea what are the 3 things you did today, but you know that they exist. And it'll be interesting to watch as you move through the 21
Right.
days, how it starts from the beginning to how towards the end, how much more readily you're able to focus on. And what we focus on expands, period, the end, no matter what it is. So the fact that we're focusing on 3 good things or 3 things that really made us feel appreciated or loved or seen by our partner, as long as we're focusing on that, well, we're going to keep seeing more and more and more and more of that. And then still having that space to say, and can we work on this together? And can we approach this differently? And can we handle this in a new manner or a new way? So it's really a fun and telling exercise. And it really is something that for us, it's kind of like a tried and true that we can come back to and drop in and out of that now that we've done it for those blocks of times. But it really is just, I think, overall expanded again, what are all the helpful, loving, kind things we are doing for each other
Yes.
all day long. Yeah. So
Okay.
give it a try. Tell us what you think.
Good
We'd
luck.
love to hear. All right. Take care.
Peace.